Hello, it's a beautiful summer afternoon in New Zealand in March, towards the tail end of our summer, but these are beautiful times to be out riding a bike. It's a bit dry, but you can see it's just a stunning day. And I'm in probably about 70 or 80 k's south of Auckland, just out for a ride, and spent yesterday cleaning up the bike and thought I should do a review of this after I've owned it. I've done about 20,000 k's. It's a 2016 Aprilia Caponord 1200 V-twin. I bought it when it was a year old. As I say, I've done about 20,000 k's on it. I've taken it to the South Island of New Zealand, so that's a pretty substantial road trip and back. And a little caveat, I guess, I did not actually choose this bike. So I was complaining to my wife that there were no bikes for sale on our what we buy bikes in New Zealand, which is Trade Me. So I was sarcastically complaining to her there's no bikes for sale. So to prove me wrong, she went online and found this, and I said, oh, it's not really for me, it looks a bit heavy, it's not really the style of bike. I don't really had sports touring and sports bikes before this. Anyway, jumped on it, took it for a ride, and I was instantly impressed with it. It just put a smile on my face straight away, so that's a pretty much a good indicator for me that I'm going to enjoy riding it. And from her point of view, if you're taking pillions, it's one of the best pillion bikes she says she's been on. So we've had Bandits, Ducati ST4S, she's been on the back of a few other bikes as well, but she said the seat on the seating position, the getting on and off, the actual ride when you're going along, she said for her it's the most comfortable, and she is basically saying that I cannot sell this bike. And the more I ride it, it just seems to keep getting better and better, and I don't know if it's just because I'm more comfortable with it, or if it's the motor's breaking in more, but it just, yeah, I'm more and more comfortable. I actually feel like I can ride this faster than I can my Turuno. So I mean, the Turuno is fast, but I feel more comfortable riding fast on this, on the street. So it's got a real long wheelbase. The motor is real torquey. So anything after sort of 3,500 RPM, it's quite happy to play around that range. Sorry, I'm just parked on the way to a reserve here, so there probably will be cars going past. But good things about it are lighting. It's got really good lights for at night. It's got quite a presence at the front as well, so cars seem to be able to see you coming. Suspension is good, even 2-up, adjustable. So there's a few different models of this, and I've basically got the entry level one, so just standard suspension, not electronic. It didn't have panniers or anything on it, but it did have a top box, which is over there, and it's quite handy. So it comes with that top box over there. So the look of it polarizes people. So my neighbor hates the mudguard at the back there, but it actually stops a lot of stones and crap kicking up, and I'm a bit fastidious on my chain, so yeah, to have stuff not flicking up the back is actually quite a good feature for me, and the look of it has grown on me. So I actually did, not long after I bought it, I did a slow speed course with this bike, and it's probably the best course that I've done for street riding. So if you ever get an opportunity to do a slow speed course, you do pick up some really cool tips and tricks using the back brake and the clutch. This is geared quite, it probably could be, it's quite tall, so you can use first gear sort of up to 50 k's no sweat. So if you are slow, you sort of have to use the clutch quite a bit if you're doing sort of 25 k's. And I can flat foot this, but it is just to maneuver around, so just because it's quite heavy, yeah, it's hard. Well, it takes effort to maneuver around. So so the modifications I've done, really the only things I've done is heated grips, and because I've got bad circulation, they're really cool. So great in winter. It actually comes with handlebar guards, but I've taken them off for the summer. The screen is adjustable, so these two knobs here, and you can bring the screen up. It's got traction control, ABS. One of the things I like about it as well, it's got a 24 litre fuel tank, so really good range. So for touring, it's awesome. You can go quite far between fill-ups, and fuel economy, I would say it's sort of in the 6.5 litres per 100, depending on how you ride it. Tyre wise, so I've run Michelin's on here, and I've run Pirelli Angel GTs, and yeah, I have to say I like the Pirellis. They feel a bit more on the sporty side, and I actually ride quite a bit, like even through winter. And coming back from a tour I did up north, it just pelted down with rain. The motorway felt like it had about 25 millimeters of water sitting on top, and these tyres just ploughed through it. And because of the weight of the bike, it actually gives you quite a comfortable feeling. Suspension rides really well. You can ride this all day. Seating position is really comfortable, so sort of, I think it's been referred to as the sit up and beg type position. So one thing to note about this bike is the handlebars are ridiculously wide. So it's probably, I think it's around the 1 meter wide handlebars. So it only just fits in and out of my ranch slider on my garage. So the bike's coming up to 33,000 k. Yeah, it's done 33,000 k's. So they tend to, like the paint and everything seems to hold up quite well. Probably should have got a radiator guard. It's getting a little bit beaten up under there. Brakes are awesome, so no problem stopping this bike at all. And I use quite a bit of rear brake, especially with pillion. So I've actually I've been through a rear brake pad, but not a front one. It's quite handy having the suspension adjustable down here as well. What else? Yeah, as I say, it's not a bike I actually chose for myself, but this is the bike, out of all the bikes I've owned, I've had this the longest, time wise. So just goes to show that it's not always the bike you think you want that you end up really enjoying. And I think it's just, we're pretty lucky to be living in this time where the quality of bikes is so good. And you can get, for reasonable money, I always try and buy something that's a year old or a demo or something. You can get such good quality bikes, and with all the electronics, safety and decent brakes, decent tyres, compared to sort of 30 years ago when you look at some of the bikes that were around, or 40 years ago. Yeah, I feel pretty privileged to be riding bikes at this time. So I've changed the bulbs on these as well to LED ones. I would like to get some frame sliders because yeah, that's probably on the list of things to do, but having multiple bikes, it's always, you got to prioritise bits and pieces. So I'll crank it up. Really like the front look of it. As I say, those two headlights really get motorists' attention. It's hard to miss you on this. I've stayed with the standard exhaust. I think it sounds good the way it is. There's the eliminator of the servo-driven exhaust flap control that you can get removed. That would be a good thing to do, I think. It would probably make it run a bit smoother. Being it's throttle by wire. So there's no cable for the throttle, so it takes a bit of getting used to get it smooth, but a bit of practice. Me and my mate's ridden it and he said he finds it fairly easy to ride smooth. I find I have to be a little bit careful mid-corner when you put the power back on, but I've been quoted to again remove that servo that eliminator, so that would possibly give you a bit more horsepower as well. And I think that exhaust would be quite heavy, so it'd be a good mod to do. It's just, yeah, it's all dollars, eh? So yeah, that's the 2016 Caponord. Aprilia, you get so much bike for your money when you go Aprilia. That's why I've got the Turuno as well. Like, what you get when you compare it to, say, like a Multistrada, the Multistrada has more power than this, but I'm never actually wanting more power on the road than what this can put out. And the engine note is real addictive, so it really starts thumping away at sort of 4,000, 5,000. It just urges you on to go faster. So there's no real, I'm not really wanting too much more power. So yeah, value for money wise, may not have the, like everyone talks Multistrada, but I think this represents pretty good value. And servicing wise, so it's probably comparable to my Bandit for just general services. So just between the valve clearances and stuff like that, it's not that expensive. So we're talking sub $500 New Zealand servicing wise. But when you get the valve clearances done, the labour there's a huge content of labour, just because all the fairing has to come off, and apparently it's a big job to remove all the fairing. So that I was expecting a decent bill, and I got a quote beforehand, which I'm quite glad I did, because apparently the guy said it took him longer than he anticipated. But in the scheme of things, it all balances out. It's just part of the experience of it having an Italian bike, I think, as well. But it's never let me down. So yeah, anyone wanting something a little bit different, I mean, reliability wise, I've never had any issues with it at all. And it used a bit of oil for the first probably up to 25,000 Ks, so it used, like, I might top it up once every 2,000, I might put like 100 mils in it. But since it's got to over 25,000, it hardly uses any. I might have to top it up once every 10,000 Ks or something like sort of 5,000 Ks. But yeah, it's usually using hardly anything now. So yeah, that's the Aprilia. Any questions, let me know. Cheers.